Hello, I am Mary Keplinger, and today I will be talking about biometrics and how they are specifically used in each branch of the government. Before we talk about how our government uses biometrics, let's discuss first how our government is structured. There are three branches of the government, which consist of the executive branch, judicial branch, and legislative branch. The executive branch consists of the President, Vice President, and the Cabinet. As most people know, the President is our country's leader and has the power to dismiss or accept any law. The Vice President takes over as President if the serving President cannot continue. The Cabinet members are advisors to the President. The Cabinet consists of the Vice President, head of executive departments, and other high-ranking government officials. The executive branch as a whole is responsible for enforcing laws. The judicial branch includes the Supreme Court, which consists of 9 justices. The 9 justices vote when laws are challenged, and whichever side has the majority wins. The judicial branch also includes the Federal Judicial Center, which is responsible for research and education for the federal courts. The judicial branch interprets laws, applies laws to specific cases, and makes sure the laws support the Constitution. The responsibilities of the legislative branch include drafting potential laws, approving presidential nominations for heads of federal agencies, and approving federal judges for the Supreme Court. The legislative branch also has the power to declare war. The legislative branch consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives has 435 members in total. The Senate has 100 members, which consists of 2 people from each U.S. state. Now that we know what each branch of the government does, how do they use biometrics? Biometrics are used by all the branches of the government, from tracking immigration to monitoring criminal activity. The executive branch uses biometrics in many ways. The Department of Homeland Security, under the executive branch, identifies and prevents illegal access to the United States. The Department of Homeland Security also facilitates proper identification of legal immigrants. The U.S. has plans to use facial recognition technology at the U.S. borders to improve tracking of foreign visitors. In addition, the Office of Biometric Identity Management, OBIM, assists the Department of Homeland Security by identifying whether specific people pose a risk to the United States. OBIM uses technology that can identify a person through a photograph alone. The FBI is transitioning to using new biometric systems such as facial recognition, digital fingerprints, palm scans, and iris scans, rather than relying on traditional fingerprints to track criminals. Another way that law enforcement identifies suspects is through typing patterns, reading speed, signature recognition, and how someone selects and reads information and eye movements. The FBI also has access to 117 million American identities. Interestingly enough, PoliceOne.com predicts that in 10 years, facial recognition will be very advanced and practically flawless for FBI use. They also suspect that missing persons cases will be easier to solve. For example, using new technology such as kinship analysis software will help identify missing people. The judicial branch of the government controls current laws surrounding the use of biometrics. People have a constitutional right to privacy. With the recent rapid advancements in biometric technology, people's right to privacy is often invaded. The judicial branch of our government is responsible for deciding how far biometric technology can go with regard to people's privacy and constitutional rights. The legislative branch of our government is responsible for creating and passing our laws. The Biometrics Information Privacy Act, BIPA, is a bill that many states have passed or are considering within their legislatures. The legislative branch of the government helped create the laws of biometric use. The purpose of the BIPA is to protect individuals' private biometric information from being compromised or used inappropriately. The Act itself states, biometrics are unlike any other unique identifiers that are used to access finances or other sensitive information. For example, Social Security numbers, when compromised, can be changed. Biometrics, however, are biologically unique to the individual. Therefore, once compromised, the individual has no recourse and is at a heightened risk for identity theft and is likely to withdraw from biometric facilitated transactions. BIPA is necessary to protect users' privacy and make sure corporations do not access biometric data without consent. Washington, Illinois, and Texas are currently enacting BIPA laws. However, many states have yet to enact BIPA because many technology companies are pushing back, preferring to have more control over the biometric data. Our government isn't the only institution to use biometrics. Every day, millions of Americans pick up their phones and, without even realizing it, make use of their personal biometric data to unlock their phones. Biometrics are used on a daily basis for identification purposes. Biometrics are replacing regular passwords. Constant advancement in technology requires frequent updates to safety and access features. The iPhone has been using electronic fingerprint passwords since the iPhone 5S was released in 2013. More recently, the iPhone X was released, which uses biometrics and facial recognition to access the iPhone. Biometrics are also widely used by other institutions and businesses to identify people through several other characteristics, including DNA, ear shape, gait, and hand geometry, just to name a few. According to the Biometrics Institute, biometrics aren't very expensive. They cost just as much as other security systems. Now that the biometrics are becoming more commonly used, the cost has decreased since its inception. For example, when biometrics was first created, the government used it exclusively, but currently, biometrics use it widespread across the United States. Cell phone fingerprint scanners were $5.50 per unit in 2014, but prices are expected to decrease to $2 per unit in 2020. Even though biometrics are very beneficial and mainstream, there are some faults. Regular passwords, using words and numbers, can be changed, but some biometric systems that identify faces, gaits, or even fingerprints, the passwords used for biometrics, usually cannot be changed easily since outward identity is hard to change without plastic surgery. Another flaw of biometrics is that fingerprints can be cloned fairly quickly without much expense. Because of all of these problems, additional features have been added to some biometric systems, such as age, gender, and height to obstruct hackers. However, people might get upset because the system can invade personal privacy, especially because data can be accessed without consent, especially by the government. There are other reasons why biometrics aren't completely foolproof. For example, fingerprint scanners may not accurately recognize fingerprints that are dirty. Security systems using voice recognition can decline identification when an individual's voice changes during a cold. False acceptance rate measures how often a security system accepts identifications from an unauthorized person. Every day, people are using biometrics as passwords and security. Our government uses it as well through system protection, legislative branch of government, immigration, executive branch of government, and tracking criminals, judicial branch of government. Even though biometrics can be very useful, there are some problems with the implementation. As this research suggests, biometrics can significantly impact how our government runs and also affects the everyday lives of millions around the world. Thank you so much for listening. Bye!